Welcome back to the horror story channel Darkness in the Night. Today, the channel is proud to introduce a ghost story titled The Forbidden Village. Before we begin, if you enjoy this, please give me a like and subscribe to the channel to support me. Thank you for listening. Now, let's get started. It was late afternoon when the rickety bus dropped Fong, Min, and VY off at a deserted mountain pass. The path leading into the so-called Forbidden Village wound deep into the forest. Nearly 10 kilometers from the highway, red dust clung to their shoes as the forest wind swept through, carrying a damp chill even though the fading sun still lingered. The three of them stopped by a shabby roadside tea stall, its rusted tin roof sagging above a few old wooden tables. The elderly woman running the place, her back bent and eyes clouded with age, poured tea while staring intently at them. "Where are you youngsters headed? Coming all the way here?" she asked, her raspy voice trembling. Fong quickly replied, "We want to visit Muang Ki village. We heard it's a place full of strange old customs few people know about. I want to research it for an article." The old woman froze, dropping the cup so that tea spilled across the table. Min flinched, while V's eyes widened. "Don't be foolish," she whispered, her gaze drifting far away. "That village no longer belongs to the living." Seeing them fall silent, she continued, as though unable to hold back. "That place was once peaceful, with rice fields and harvest festivals. But 100 years ago, a strange plague struck. People say it was the mountain god's curse, because the villagers tore down an ancient shrine to build houses. Since then, during the day you still see people walking, laughing, living as usual, but at night, if anyone stays, they'll see another crowd, faces deathly pale, eyes black as ink, going about the same chores as in the day. Only in complete silence. Anyone unlucky enough to witness it is taken, never to return." Min shivered, scratching his neck as goosebumps spread. "So, the living and the dead exist together, Grandma?" The old woman only nodded and sighed. VY forced a faint laugh, trying to mask her trembling. Maybe it's just a legend. Yet her uneasy eyes betrayed her doubt. As they pondered, an old man passed by with a bundle of firewood strapped to his back. Spotting them, he set it down and stared straight at Fong. "Don't go there. Tonight is the full moon. 100 years ago, on this very night, the plague first began. Tonight, the gate between two worlds will open again." The air in the stall grew icy. Min swallowed hard, leaning toward Fong to whisper, "See, everyone here says the same. Let's not mess with this." But Fong's curiosity only deepened, though his voice lowered. What if that's the very mystery worth writing about? If it's only rumor, why does everyone fear it so much? The old man frowned, turned away, and muttered one last cryptic warning. "Getting in is easy, getting out is the hard part." Darkness slowly crept over the pass as insects droned all around. The stall's owner urged them to stay until morning, but Fong, stubborn as ever, dragged Min and VY along. "The more they forbid us, the more we need to see. Isn't truth the reason we came?" His eyes gleamed with determination. VY bit her lip and nodded silently. Min's face went pale, but in the end, he followed reluctantly. They stepped onto the narrow trail into the forest. The path stretched endlessly, thick trees crowding both sides, the wind howling through the leaves. Dark clouds swallowed the moonlight, plunging everything into gloom. In that instant, VY heard a faint whisper right beside her ear. "Welcome back to the village." She whipped around in shock, but behind her, there was only Min, trembling as he walked. The three of them walked deeper into the forest. The winding trail twisted like a long snake, sloping up and down, the red earth mixed with sharp stones making every step heavy. The sounds of insects, frogs, and gibbons echoed through the canopy. Min panted as he walked, muttering under his breath, "The old woman warned us already. I don't like this at all. This village must be nothing but ghosts and demons." VY pulled her coat tighter, her eyes darting around. "Let's move faster. The longer we hesitate, the easier it is to get lost." Fong, on the other hand, scanned the surroundings with fascination. He pointed toward the mossy wooden stakes lining both sides of the path. "Strange," Twisted symbols, like ancient script, were carved into each one. See that? These aren't ordinary markings. The villagers might have used them to mark boundaries. Fong said with excitement. Min shivered. Or maybe, to keep something trapped inside. The night grew darker and heavier. Just as the moon slipped out from behind the clouds, Vi grabbed Fong's hand and whispered shakily. Do you see someone? Over there. Fong and Min spun around. Among the thick trees, pale figures flickered faintly, standing still. Faces indistinct, unmoving, swaying like shadows stirred by the wind. Min panicked. Are those people? Or ghosts? Fong squinted, trying to focus, but within seconds the figures were gone, leaving only the rustle of the forest. Maybe just a trick of the eyes. But either way, don't stop walking, Fong said, though tension glimmered in his gaze. After nearly an hour, they finally reached a crooked wooden gate. On each side loomed strange stone statues, half human, half beast, with ferocious faces. Hanging above the gate was a rotting wooden sign. Its letters faded, leaving only fragments. NKY. A cold gust swept through, making the sign creak like a mournful groan. Vi swallowed hard and clutched Fong's sleeve. I feel like someone is watching us. Min looked ready to turn back and run. But Fong stepped forward and pushed the gate open. It groaned loudly, revealing a dirt path leading into the village. The moment they entered, a strange sound echoed in the distance, like pounding drums mixed with an ancient chant. The rhythm was low and heavy, reverberating everywhere, with no clear source. Vi whispered, her voice trembling. Is someone performing a ritual? Fong's brow furrowed, his eyes alight with curiosity. Exactly. Maybe the villagers still practice their old ceremonies. We need to find out. Min's eyes bulged. Are you insane? Just listening to it gives me chills. And you want to get closer? But no matter how much Min protested, all three felt their feet drawn forward by the eerie drums. The damp dirt road stretched between rows of old wooden houses, their windows dark like hollow eye sockets. Then, from one of the houses, a figure slowly emerged. A woman, her long hair disheveled, her skin deathly pale, her eyes sunken deep. She said nothing, only lifted her hand and slowly beckoned them to come closer. The three froze as the woman stepped out of the wooden house. A cold wind blew past, tossing her long hair, but her face remained still, her eyes dark and hollow like deep pits. Min staggered back, trembling. This isn't right, I swear this isn't right. She doesn't look alive at all. Vi clutched Fong's hand tightly. Her heart pounded wildly, but her legs refused to move. The woman slowly lifted her hand, motioning for them to follow, then turned and walked back into the house at a chillingly slow pace. Fong, driven by curiosity and determination, went first. Vi reluctantly followed, while Min muttered curses under his breath yet still trailed close behind. Inside, the house was reeking and dark, lit only by the flicker of an old oil lamp. The walls were covered with faded charms, tangled red strains, and grotesque wooden masks. The woman sat down on a worn mat in the center of the room. Her voice rasped, echoing like it came from a cavern. You should not have come here. The three froze. Fong bent forward and calmly asked, Are you a villager here? The woman slowly raised her head. A strange light glimmered in her eyes. I am one of the few left. Left from the final ritual? The air in the room grew heavy and suffocating. Vi shivered, clinging to Fong's arm. Min's face turned pale, drenched in sweat. Fong pressed on. What ritual are you talking about? The woman trembled, as though reliving some horror. 20 years ago, this village broke a taboo. They were bloodthirsty, worshipping an ancient deity. They had to sacrifice their own people, to keep the village alive. Min hissed under his breath. Damn it, I knew it. This place isn't normal. They're lunatics worshipping a false god. The woman nodded slowly. They made a mistake, they sacrificed the wrong one. And then, he grew furious. The curse descended, trapping the entire village, forever bound here. Never able to leave. Her voice cracked, tears glistening in her eyes. I am one of the few who remain, but I cannot escape either." Suddenly, the eerie drums boomed again, louder and faster, mingled with strange chanting from afar. The woman jolted, her eyes wide with terror. "No, they must not see you. If they do, you'll be taken into the ritual too." Her hands shook as she shoved a piece of old cloth into Fong's hands. On it was drawn a circle covered with strange, twisting symbols. "Take this, it's the only mark that can protect you, but only for tonight." Vi gripped Fong's shoulder, whispering desperately, "I want to leave, right now." Min nodded frantically, his voice trembling. "Fong, listen to me. This time we have to go. Stop trying to dig deeper." But at that moment, the door burst open with a loud crash. Dark figures appeared outside in the alley. Heavy footsteps echoed, and the drums pounded closer. The woman screamed in panic. "Run, get out, before they come in." Fong grabbed V's hand and pulled her toward the back door of the house. Min, panicked, rushed after them, glancing back as he ran. The thunderous sound of drums shook the air, mingling with eerie, ghostly chants. In the darkness, flickering torches lined up into a procession entering from the edge of the village. The figures wore white funeral robes, their faces hidden behind wooden masks, each holding small drums and sticks beating in rhythm. Vi was on the verge of tears. "They've found us, they're coming for us." Clenching his teeth, Fong yanked Vi into a narrow alley between two rotting houses. Min stumbled after them, sweat soaking through his shirt. The three darted into a collapsing shack, its wooden floor creaking under their weight, the stench of mold filling the air. They held their breath and crouched low. Footsteps, drums, and shrill cries drew nearer. Through the cracks in the decayed wood, Min glimpsed dozens of masked figures passing by. The torchlight revealed eyes beneath the masks, blank, milky white, utterly lifeless. Vi buried her face in Fong's shoulder, trembling as she whispered, "I can't take this anymore, we're going to die here." Fong rested his hand on her back, trying to comfort her, though his own voice trembled. "No, we'll find a way out. We have to believe that." Suddenly, thump, a sound erupted inside the shack itself. Min jolted and spun around. In the dark corner sat an old, broken drum. Its skin quivered and beat on its own, releasing a hollow, resonant thud. Outside, every drum fell silent at once. The air turned deathly still. Vi choked on her breath. They heard it?" Sure enough, shrill voices echoed from the distance. They're inside." The wooden door shook violently as pounding fists shattered the rotting planks. And torchlight spilled into the room. With no choice left, Fong clutched the old cloth marked with the strange symbol the woman had given him. Holding it to his chest, he shouted, "Follow me." The three of them bolted out the back just as the masked figures stormed in. Torchlight filled the shack, but strangely, the intruders stopped, wandering in confusion, their blank eyes scanning the room as if they couldn't see the three at all. Vi gasped in realization. "The symbol, it blinds them to us." Min let out a tense, shaky laugh. "Yeah, but it only works for one night. That's what she said. We have to escape before dawn." They slipped through the narrow paths, the distant drums starting up again, circling the village like a trap closing in. At last, they reached the end of the road, where a massive wooden gate stood. Beyond it lay the village graveyard. Crooked tombstones jutted out from the earth, wild grass choking the ground, and thick fog blanketing everything. Vi gripped Fong's hand tightly, her voice trembling. "I don't want to go in there." Fong's breath came heavy, but his eyes burned with determination. "There's no other way. The graveyard is the only path that leads straight to the slope outside the village." Min swallowed hard, staring at the black expanse of graves. "I've got a bad feeling. Stepping in there might be worse than facing those masked freaks." The drums boomed again, faster this time, pressing them onward. Clenching his jaw, Fong shoved the gate open with a long creak. And together, the three of them stepped into the graveyard. The wooden gate slammed shut behind them with a dry, echoing thud. Even though Fong hadn't touched it, Vi flinched, spinning around, only to see the rotting planks sealed tightly together. The graveyard was unnervingly still, swallowed in a dense, ghostly fog. Crooked old tombstones leaned at odd angles, some cracked, some crumbling, others buried beneath moss and creeping vines. The drums outside had gone silent. All that remained was the whistling of wind through the barren trees, carrying a sound like mournful sighs. The three of them crept cautiously deeper inside. Min swept his flashlight across the graves, the weak yellow beam sliding over each stone. Suddenly he froze, his voice quivering. "Hey, do you see that? On the tombstones, shadows." Fong and VY looked. Sure enough, faint black shapes were etched across the mossy stone surfaces. Some stood upright, others crouched low, and a few looked like they were reaching out in desperate pleas. VY clutched Fong's arm with an icy grip. I can't look anymore." Ahead, a stone-paved path stretched toward a narrow slope leading out, but the graves crowded on either side, jutting closer as though they were pressing in to block the way. With every step, Fong heard faint creaks beneath his feet, like unseen hands pushing upward from inside the graves. Min swallowed hard, whispering, "I swear, I just saw a tombstone turn its face toward us." VY clamped her hands over her ears, but still the faint scratching came through, like fingernails clawing against stone. Halfway down the path, a figure appeared, a woman dressed in white mourning robes, her long hair hanging loose. Clutching a small drum, she struck it slowly, thump, thump, each beat reverberating through the graveyard. With every strike, the ground quivered, and pale hands clawed their way up from the earth, gripping the edges of the stone path. VY screamed, nearly collapsing, but Fong dragged her back up. Min picked up a rock to defend himself, though his hands shook violently. The woman lifted her face, skin deathly pale, eyes hollow and pupil-less. Her voice echoed, deep and hollow like from the bottom of a pit. "You dare step into the forbidden ground, then you must stay." Dozens of hands broke through the soil, writhing like a swarm of the undead. Bones cracked and popped, the stench of death filling the fog-choked air. Thinking fast, Fong raised the cloth with the strange symbol. Miraculously, the hands halted, trembling as though an unseen force shoved them back. The woman shrieked, her voice shrill and piercing through the mist. "That mark won't save you forever. Tonight, you will belong to this village." The drumbeats quickened, relentless. Tombstones split open, and from within, shadowy figures crawled out, faces twisted, eyes rolled white. Fong shouted, "Run, don't look back." He yanked VY forward, Min scrambling after. The three sprinted toward the slope, but as they reached its base, they froze in shock. The path ahead had vanished. In its place stretched an endless sea of graves. The three of them froze, hearts pounding as if about to burst. The slope that had once led outside was now nothing but a desolate wasteland stretching endlessly into a sea of graves, crammed together in chaotic rows. A cold wind blew, the thick fog curling around them, blurring all sense of direction. Min swallowed hard, stammering, No way, I swear I saw the path out right here." VY trembled, her voice breaking into near sobs. "Maybe we've stepped into a place that doesn't belong to the living." Suddenly, faint whispers drifted from afar. It was impossible to tell if they were male or female, only disembodied voices carried by the mist. "Come here, this way, there's a way out." The voices grew louder, then faded, pulling them deeper as if luring them forward. VY clapped her hands over her ears, shaking. "Don't listen, those voices, they're not from the living." Grinding his teeth, Fong gripped the cloth with the strange symbol. "If we stay here, we'll be swallowed whole. I'd rather follow the call than stand here waiting to die." Reluctantly, they edged toward the sound, though terror filled every step. With each footfall, the ground quivered, tombs around them began rising higher, as if the entire graveyard itself was shifting. Some toppled and split, exposing piles of brittle bones within. Min swept his flashlight and its beam landed on a glaring white skull. In an instant, the empty eye sockets flared red, and the jaw cracked open in a chilling, cackling laugh. Min stumbled back, nearly falling. Hellspawn, this is a nest of demons. Through the veil of mist, the woman in the mourning robe appeared again. She still beat her drum slowly. But this time, behind her shuffled dozens of staggering figures. Their eyes were glazed white, their decaying bodies dragging forward with heavy, lifeless steps. Vi panicked, breaking into sobs. No, I can't keep going. They're coming closer. Fong clenched his jaw, pulling Vi against him, whispering firmly, "Trust me, just trust me, and we'll make it out." At the height of their despair, Min suddenly spotted a faint figure in the mist, a small child. No more than 7 or 8 years old, clad in a tattered brown shirt, standing silently and staring at them. The child didn't move, only raised one hand, pointing in another direction. Min gasped, "Hey, do you see that? There's a kid." Fong looked, and indeed, the child was there, its dimly glowing eyes piercing through the fog. Vi clung to Fong, her voice breaking. Could it be a lost spirit? Fong narrowed his eyes, conflicted, yet in that fleeting moment, he felt the child bore no malice. The child lifted its hand again, pointing toward a darker recess within the sea of graves, then slowly faded away. Fong drew a sharp breath, making his decision. Follow that direction, whatever it is. I trust it. The three bolted, the pounding of drums chasing them, ghastly screams echoing across the graveyard. When they reached the spot the child had shown, the thick fog suddenly parted, revealing a narrow gap hidden between two colossal ancient tombs. From within the gap, a freezing wind blew, laced with the faint scent of incense. Vi gasped. This might be the way out. But at that moment, the woman's voice cut through the fog, sharp as a blade. You will not escape. All of you will be buried here. The graveyard convulsed, the earth split open, and from the cracks, countless pale hands clawed upward, grasping hungrily to drag them down. Fong roared, "Into the gap, now!" Fong gripped V's hand tightly and pulled her in first. Min stumbled in after them, panic etched on his face, while behind them the graveyard shook violently, funeral drums pounding like a storm. The narrow passage was freezing cold, its moss-covered stone walls so tight they had to twist their bodies just to squeeze through. In the darkness, only their ragged breathing and the thunder of their own heartbeats filled their ears. Min gasped between breaths. God, it feels like we're crawling straight into the mouth of a monster. Vi trembled. I'm scared, what if this isn't even a way out? Fong clutched the cloth with the strange symbol, whispering, I believe, that child led us here for a reason. We don't have any other choice. The dark passage seemed endless. Then, faintly ahead, a pale green glow flickered like a ghostly flame. The closer they drew, the brighter it became, until it revealed a round chamber. Like an underground crypt, the walls, covered in mold, were carved with strange symbols etched by blade, though most had long faded. At the center stood an ancient clay jar, cracked and broken, from which the eerie green light seeped. Min's eyes widened. What the hell? I've never seen anything like that. Vi stepped back, clutching Fong's sleeve. Don't go near it, that thing feels wrong. Suddenly, a child's voice echoed through the chamber. Free me, open it, open the jar? All three jumped, spinning around, but no one was there, only the glow spilling from the cracked vessel. Min swallowed hard. You heard that, right? It wants us to open the jar. Vi burst into tears. No, it has to be a trap. Fong frowned, studying the jar carefully. On its lid clung a tattered yellow talisman, only half remaining, and the markings on the charm were identical to the ones drawn on the cloth in his hand. Fong lifted the cloth closer to the lid. When the two symbols aligned, the green glow suddenly flared, flooding the chamber with blinding light. For an instant, they saw it clearly. A small child, curled up beside the jar. The very same child who had guided them earlier. The child lifted its tear-streaked face. Please, help me. They've trapped me here for so long. Vi froze, her chest aching with sorrow. She stammered. Who are you? The child choked back sobs, pointing at the talisman on the lid. That is my chain. If you tear it away, I'll show you the way out. The chamber grew heavy with dread. Min whispered, "This is bad. What if it's a demon pretending to be a kid?" Vi looked at the child, her heart tightening painfully. She could feel its despair. A pure, innocent soul imprisoned. Fong clenched his jaw, his mind torn apart. He knew, removing the seal could truly free the child, but it might also unleash something far worse than the cursed village itself. The green glow flickered violently. The pounding of drums outside still echoed into the crypt, growing nearer with every beat. Their time was running out. Fong drew a deep breath, his hand pressing onto the jar's lid. We had to decide, right now. Fong cast one last look at Min and Vi. Min trembled, whispering, "Fong, if you open it, we're all finished." Vi bit her lip, tears streaming down her cheeks. But if that child is truly imprisoned unfairly, we'd be the ones abandoning it. Fong's heart pounded, his teeth clenched. The child's whisper echoed in his head. "Please, save me?" At last, he yanked hard, tearing the yellow talisman from the jar's lid. Immediately, the chamber shook violently. An icy gust exploded outward like a storm, nearly toppling them. The green light flared so bright they shielded their faces with their hands. When the glow dimmed, a faint figure emerged from within the jar. A little boy of 6 or 7, barefoot, in a torn brown shirt, his face thin and gaunt. He stood in the middle of the chamber, tears glistening in his eyes, voice trembling. Thank you so much." Vi sobbed uncontrollably. "My God, you're just a child. Why were you locked away like this?" The boy turned his face aside, his voice breaking. "I was taken as a sacrifice, to seal away something else. They trapped my soul here, to keep it bound." As soon as he finished, a low, guttural roar erupted from the jar, shaking their bones. A thick, black smoke burst forth, twisting into the towering form of a shadow with blazing red eyes. The shadow screeched, "Fools, you've broken the seal, you've released me." The chamber rocked as stones rained down. Min screamed, "Fong, what the hell have you done?" The boy shouted in panic. "No, I wasn't the one sealed, it was that monster. I was only bound to maintain the seal." Vi stood frozen, clutching Fong's arm with trembling hands. The black figure stretched and expanded, smoke writhing through every crevice of the chamber. It lunged, closing in within steps. In a flash of desperation, Fong remembered the cloth still clenched in his hand. He raised it high, shouting, "Stop!" Astonishingly, the shadow shrieked, reeling back as if scorched. That cloth, it's the key to the seal." The boy's eyes lit with hope. "Combine it with the torn talisman. Only then can you bind it again." With no other choice, Fong sprinted toward the jar. But the shadow lashed out, a whip of black smoke slamming Min against the stone wall. Blood spurted from his lips as he collapsed. Vi screamed, her voice breaking. Min, gritting his teeth, Fong pressed the cloth against the torn talisman. Instantly, the two halves fused, blazing like fire. The light shot into the jar, pulling the shadow back in. The entity wailed, thrashing violently, its voice echoing in fury. "No, I haven't escaped yet." With a piercing scream, the black smoke was sucked into the jar. The lid sealed itself shut, and the eerie glow vanished. Silence returned, broken only by their ragged breaths and racing heartbeats. Min lay sprawled, panting heavily, blood trickling from his head. Vi and Fong rushed to his side, helping him up. Min forced a weak, crooked smile. "Huh, you really are insane? But at least it worked." Fong turned to the jar, now sealed tight once more, and let out a heavy sigh. He looked back at the boy, whose figure was already fading. His smile tinged with sadness. "Thank you, because of you. I'm free at last. Now I can finally go." A gentle light wrapped around the small soul, then dispersed into nothingness. Vi wept softly, while Fong stood in silence. His heart weighed down. They had freed a spirit, but had nearly unleashed a monstrous evil. And he knew, this was only the beginning of the forbidden secrets the village was hiding. After returning from the crypt, all three were utterly exhausted. Vi patched Min's wound as best she could, but he was still dizzy and pale. Fong sat by the window of the old stilt house, staring out at the light drizzle. In his mind, the child's voice still echoed. It has only just begun. He clenched his fists, his heart weighed down. Suddenly, old Madame Le, the only villager who had dared to speak to them, appeared. Leaning heavily on her cane, her wrinkled face turned ashen as she listened to their account of what had happened underground. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "You children, you've broken the greatest taboo. That shadow, it was once sealed inside the blood temple, deep in the forest, but for generations, to keep it bound, this village had to sacrifice the souls of children." Vi shivered violently, clutching Min's arm. No, how could they be so cruel? Madame Le closed her eyes, tears streaking down her face. No one dares defy it, except those who vanished forever. That night, before they could even rest, a deep, thunderous drumbeat rolled through the village, each strike pounding into their chests. Thump, thump, thump. Fong bolted upright, his heart racing. What is that sound? Madame Le blanched, her voice quivering. It's the sacrifice drum. The blood temple has awakened. The weak Min forced himself to stand. Does that mean they're going to sacrifice another child? Madame Lee's cane shook as she nodded. Despite her desperate pleas, Fong declared he had to go to the temple and stop it. Vi and Min, resolute, refused to let him go alone. Guided by the drums, they pushed through the dense bamboo forest. The path ahead swallowed in mist. The air thickened with a stench of blood. The drumbeat quickened, now entwined with eerie, ritualistic chanting that echoed through the woods. Vi whispered, her voice shaking, "It feels like hundreds of people are walking right behind us." They turned, but saw nothing. Only the suffocating darkness pressing close. Finally, through the fog, the ruined temple emerged. Its cracked brick walls were coated in moss, the broken roof sagging, yet from within blazed a searing red glow, like blood seeping through every fissure. In the courtyard, dozens of figures in white mourning robes and veils surrounded a stone altar. On it lay a little girl, bound tight, sobbing, her eyes pleading for help. Min's teeth clenched as he hissed, "They're going to kill her." Fong gripped the talisman in his hand, inhaling deeply. "We have to do something, right now." The three crept closer. Vi seized Fong's hand, her palm icy. "Fong, if we interfere, will we even survive?" Fong gave no reply, his eyes locked on the blood-red temple. The chanting grew frantic. One of the robed figures lifted a ceremonial blade, its edge glinting as he leaned over the child. In that instant, Fong burst from cover, shouting, "Stop!" The courtyard froze. Dozens of veiled faces turned toward them. Silent and chilling, the little girl screamed, her voice raw with terror. "Help me, please, save me." The drums fell silent. An oppressive hush smothered the air. Then, with a screech of wood, the temple's massive door creaked open, and from the darkness emerged the towering idol of a blood-soaked god, its blazing red eyes staring directly at them. The temple doors groaned open, the sound echoing like hundreds of screams from a deep cavern. The idol stood nearly 4 meters tall, sculpted from earth, bones, and layers of dried, blackened blood. Its hollow eyes burned with a fiery red glow, as if living flames raged within. When its gaze fell across the courtyard, no one dared move. Vi stumbled back, her voice trembling. "Fong, Min, that's not a statue, it's watching us." Min clutched his wound, but still pulled Vi behind him. "That thing, it's the demon this whole village worships." Fong growled through clenched teeth. "No, it's not a god. It's the monster that has devoured the souls of countless children here." The robed mourners dropped to their knees in unison, chanting louder and louder. "Blood, blood, we offer this soul to feed the god." The cries shook the forest, the sky above seeming to stain crimson. The bound girl on the altar shrieked, her eyes wide with terror. The ceremonial blade was raised again, its edge glowing as if heated by fire. With a roar, Fong charged into the crowd. He shoved the stone altar aside and seized the girl in his arms. One of the robed figures lunged at him, grabbing his arm, but its face twisted grotesquely. Skin splitting apart, eyes blazing red, teeth lengthening into savage fangs. Vi screamed in horror. They're not human anymore. Amid the chaos, a voice slithered into Fong's mind, deep and haunting. Give the child to me, and I will spare you and your friends. I swear it. Fong staggered, his vision blurring as pain stabbed through his skull. Min noticed and shouted, gripping his friend's shoulder. Fong, don't listen. That's the demon trying to tempt you. Sweat poured down Fong's face as he clutched the girl tighter. He screamed back, defiant, shut up, I won't give her to you. Instantly, the idol's red eyes blazed brighter, and the temple shuddered violently. The mourners surged forward, bodies twisting like cursed beasts. Min drew his dagger and plunged it into one attacker. Black blood gushed out, stinking of rot. Vi, trembling, swung a wooden staff wildly, desperate to keep the others at bay. Fong held the girl close, dodging frantically as he shouted, "Run, get out of here!" But before they could escape, 4 massive bone chains whipped out of the temple. Writhing like living serpents, they anchored themselves into the 4 corners of the courtyard, sealing every exit. The giant idol raised one withered hand, and from the cracked earth around the temple, dozens of skeletal hands thrust upward, clawing for anything alive. Vi sobbed, screaming in terror. Fong, we're trapped. In that moment of despair, Madame Le, the old woman who had followed them in secret, hobbled into the courtyard. Leaning on her cane, she shouted, her voice breaking, "Stop, Fong, if you want to survive. There's only one way, leave the girl. This is the sacrifice our village has obeyed for 100 years." Fong looked down at the crying child in his arms, her eyes begging, overflowing with despair. His chest heaved, his heart pounding like a drum, sweat pouring down his face. Min roared back in fury. "No, if we abandon her, we're no better than these monsters." Silence fell, heavy and suffocating. The colossal idol glared down, as if waiting for his decision. Fong clenched the girl tightly and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Even if it kills me, I'll never give her to you." At that very moment, the entire temple convulsed, the ground cracked wide, and the idol's crimson eyes erupted in a blaze so fierce it lit up the entire forest. A thunderous roar erupted from within the temple, a sound like mountains splitting apart. The idol of bone and blood suddenly moved in full. It stepped down onto the ground, leaving behind colossal, slimy footprints, out of which swarmed countless writhing white maggots. Vi collapsed to her knees, clutching her head in terror. "No, it's alive?" Still clutching the little girl tight, Fong shouted over the deafening roar, Run from the temple." But Madame Le blocked their path, tears brimming in her aged eyes. "You don't understand, this god cannot be killed. It has fed on the blood of this village for 100 generations. The only way to escape is to break the sacrificial ritual before the blood moon fades." Min's eyes blazed. "Break it? How?" Madame Lee's hands shook as she clutched her prayer beads. "You must sever the blood chain that binds the soul of the very first child sacrificed. That soul is the god's true source of power." Fong held the girl tighter, roaring desperately, "Then tell me where it is." Madame Le pointed a trembling finger behind the idol. "In the crypt, beneath the forbidden tree in the temple's rear courtyard." The group bolted toward the back, but the mourners had now fully transformed, running on all fours like rabid beasts. Eyes glowing red, fangs dripping with blood, Min slashed fiercely, his dagger tearing into their rotting flesh. But the creatures didn't stop. Vi sobbed, swinging her wooden staff wildly to keep them back. Fong, gasping for breath, still cradled the girl as he dashed toward the forbidden tree. But above them, the colossal god shrieked, and from the ground dozens of bloody hands burst upward, seizing at their legs. At last, they reached the massive ancient tree, its trunk as wide as a temple roof. Its bark was etched with carvings of kneeling figures, from whose wounds fresh blood still seeped. At its roots lay a crypt sealed by a moss-covered stone lid. Together, Min and Fong heaved it open, a suffocating stench of death blasting upward. Inside rested a tiny rotted wooden coffin. Wrapped around it glowed the blood chains, pulsing faintly like a beating heart. Vi trembled, whispering, That must be the imprisoned soul. Fong looked from the girl in his arms to the coffin below. He knew, to break the ritual, blood was needed as the key to unlock the chains. The god's voice thundered inside his skull, insidious and overwhelming. You cannot escape? Give me the child, and I will spare you all. Fong screamed back, his head splitting with pain. Shut up, I'll never listen to you. Min gripped his dagger, his voice harsh and grim. Fong, this is it, one chance. Either sacrifice, or we all die. You decide. Vi collapsed to her knees, sobbing, her trembling hands reaching for the bloodchains. Beneath the fading red moonlight, the three of them stood before the coffin of a child and the pulsing chains of blood. Outside, the giant god roared, the howls of beasts echoing across the mountains. The night of blood had reached its final reckoning. The air grew suffocatingly heavy, the blood moon above casting its crimson light onto the roots of the forbidden tree. As if urging them onward, Min drove his dagger into the earth, gritting his teeth. There's no time left. We have to open this coffin. Vi shook her head violently, trembling. No, whatever's inside, it has to be something horrific. Clutching the little girl tightly, Fong stared down at the rotted wooden coffin lid. The glowing blood chains coiled around it groaned like tortured souls. Each time the moonlight struck them, they twitched and writhed like living creatures. With a growl, Min swung his dagger down. The blade bit into the chains, and real blood spattered out, burning his face like acid. He gritted his teeth and struck again and again until the final chain cracked apart. The coffin shook violently, then burst open. Inside was no skeleton as they expected, but a child, its body intact, skin pale as death, eyes closed as though asleep, black hair draped across half its face. Vi gasped, her breath caught. My God, it looks like it's still alive. Before she could finish, the child's eyes snapped open, pure white, no pupils. Its mouth opened slowly, releasing a sound that was both an infant's wail and a monstrous roar. That cry echoed through the entire village, as though every sacrificed soul screamed together in unison. From the temple, the colossal god surged forward, its body streaming blood as it bellowed. No, that is mine. Fong trembled, clutching the little girl, eyes red with tears. He looked from the child in the coffin to the one in his arms. From afar, Madame Le cried out desperately. The blood of an innocent soul will free the imprisoned one. But, if you do that, the child will die. Vi collapsed in sobs, falling to her knees. No, we can't kill her. We can't sacrifice another innocent life just to save ourselves. Min's teeth clenched, his voice like steel. Fong, choose now. If you don't, we'll all die at the hands of that god. Fong's body shook as he clutched the girl even tighter, tears streaming down his face. His voice broke as he screamed, No, I won't kill her. If blood is needed, then take mine. He rushed to the coffin, slicing open his own arm. His blood spilled onto the pale child inside. In that instant, the corpse convulsed and sat upright, its mouth opening in a piercing scream. A torrent of blinding white light burst forth, sweeping away all shadows in the crypt. The colossal god shrieked, its form splitting apart as blood sprayed in torrents. The twisted mourners outside howled as their bodies ignited, one by one exploding into ash. Vi clung to Min, both shielding their eyes from the radiance. As the light dimmed, the child in the coffin closed its eyes once more, its body dissolving into ash that drifted away with the wind. The blood chains crumbled into nothing. Fong collapsed, blood soaking the ground, his face pale but his eyes still burning with resolve. The little girl in his arms was alive, only staring around in confusion. The god roared one last time before its massive body exploded into a storm of gore, vanishing into the night air. The village shook as abandoned houses crumbled and the ground split open. The mountains echoed with wailing cries. Before silence finally fell, Vi sank to the earth, gasping, tears streaming. We survived? Min rushed to catch Fong as he sagged, shouting, "Fong, stay with us. Don't you dare leave us now." Fong panted heavily, forcing a weak smile. "At least, I didn't let another innocent child die again." The sky began to brighten. For the first time in countless years, the sun's first rays pierced through the village. But just as they thought the nightmare was over, a faint sound rose from beneath the earth, like a child's whisper. "You have broken the seal, but the true darkness has not yet vanished." The morning sun cast its rays over the village. The mist began to fade, and the faint chirping of birds returned. Vi looked around in awe, her eyes glimmering with hope. We made it out." But Min frowned deeply. Beneath his feet, he could still feel the earth trembling ever so slightly, as if something refused to rest. Fong lay limp in Min's arms, gasping weakly, his wounded arm still bleeding. The little girl was set down beside him, her innocent face unchanged. Yet her eyes, somehow no longer the same. Vi leaned down to wipe the blood from the girl's face. But the moment her hand touched her, the child slowly opened her eyes and stared directly at Vi. Her once dark pupils now glistened with thin, blood-red veins, and then, she smiled. Not the smile of a child, but the cruel, knowing grin of something ancient and wicked. Vi recoiled, trembling. "Min, something's wrong with her." Even in his weakened state, Fong forced himself to lift his head. When he saw that smile, ice shot through his veins. From deep underground, the child's whisper returned, clearer this time. "Did you think I had vanished? No, I was only freed from that rotting shell. And now, I need a new vessel?" The girl laughed shrilly, her eyes blazing crimson, her small body convulsed, bones cracking audibly. Fong cried out, desperate, "No, don't touch her." He staggered forward, trying to hold her, but his strength was gone. The girl tilted her head at him, whispering in a rasping voice, "Your blood will be the perfect beginning for me." From afar, Madame La hobbled forward, her face pale as death. "Dear heavens, I was wrong. Opening the coffin did not free the soul, it unleashed it. You've awakened the true master of this village." The girl turned her gaze to Madame La and smirked coldly. "That's right, for centuries, this village fed me with their sacrifices. But now, I no longer need their offerings. I will exist on my own, and reclaim this land." The air thickened instantly. Though dawn had broken, the sky darkened again, plunging into twilight. The ruined houses began to reassemble piece by piece, but not of wood or stone. They reformed out of pulsating, red flesh. Min yanked Vi back, shouting, "Fong, let her go. That's not the girl anymore." But Fong shook violently, clutching her tighter. "No, I swore I'd protect her, no matter what she is." The child giggled in his arms, lifting her face, her eyes glowing blood red as she whispered, "You will be my first loyal puppet." Fong's body convulsed violently, dark veins crawling up his skin like writhing serpents. He let out a hideous scream, his eyes glazing over as he dropped to his knees. Vi screamed in horror. "No!" Min's eyes burned with tears as he gritted his teeth, pulling out his dagger, staring at his best friend, who was already beginning to change. Fong's body convulsed violently, black veins spreading across his skin. His eyes bulged, clouded and bloodshot. As he screamed, a chorus of dozens of voices echoing through him. "Blood! I need blood!" The little girl stood before him, her voice sweet yet chilling. "Good, very good. Obey me, and you will never suffer again." Fong dropped to his knees, gazing at her like a servant before his master. Vi broke down in tears, sobbing, "No, Fong, please wake up. You're not a monster. You're our friend." For a brief moment, Fong shuddered, as though a flicker of his true self fought to return. But instantly, the girl placed her hand on his forehead. A surge of black smoke erupted, enveloping his entire body. Min's grip tightened on the dagger in his hand. Sweat poured down his face as he stared at the childhood friend who had once grown up by his side, now kneeling like a puppet. Madame Le cried out desperately. Cut it. You must sever the connection before it's too late. Min roared back. No, that's my friend. I can't. The girl lifted her head toward Min, smirking coldly. You don't dare kill him, then let me do it for you. She commanded. Fong, kill them. With a roar, Fong leapt to his feet. His eyes glowed crimson, his fangs lengthened, and he charged at Min and Vi with terrifying speed. Min swung his dagger, grazing Fong's shoulder. Black blood sprayed out, but Fong felt no pain. He snarled and slammed his fist into Min's chest, hurling him backward, blood spilling from his lips. Vi screamed, voice breaking. Stop, you're Fong, you're still him. For an instant, humanity flickered in Fong's eyes. His hand trembled, but the girl clenched her fist tightly, as though pulling his strings. Don't stop, kill them now. Fong howled, lunging at Vi. Min staggered back to his feet, blood dripping from his mouth, and shouted with everything he had. Fong, if you can still hear me, fight her. For a moment, Fong froze, his entire body shaking. He clutched his head, screaming, Get out of my head. The girl shrieked in fury. You cannot resist me. You are nothing but my tool. Shaking violently, Fong turned to look at Min and Vi, his eyes torn between man and monster. Min, Vi, I'm sorry. Before Min could react, Fong grabbed his own dagger and plunged it deep into his chest. Black blood gushed forth, and the dark smoke poured from his body in torrents. The girl screamed, clutching her head and stumbling back. No. Fong collapsed, a faint smile on his lips. I chose for myself. No one controls me anymore. His eyes closed, and his breath ceased. The girl stood trembling, her eyes glowing crimson before she shrieked with hatred. You dare ruin my plans? Very well, if I have no living sacrifice. Then you will become the blood that feeds me. The village quaked once more as the fleshy houses collapsed, replaced by towering white bone spires clawing their way out of the earth. The air thickened, saturated with the stench of death. Min pulled Vi close, both of them weeping as they stared at Fong's body. But they knew it wasn't over yet. The girl's scream shook the earth. Her skin began to tear apart, revealing a grotesque body, half child, half corpse, with dozens of tiny arms sprouting from her back. She no longer resembled anything human. Min and Vi staggered backward, their hearts pounding. Vi whispered, trembling, This is her true form. Madame Le collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath. You must use the blood of one who offers willingly, together with this talisman. Only then can you seal it. With shaking hands, she passed Min a tattered charm, painted in red ink and ancient symbols. The monster lunged forward, its many arms lashing out like whips, smashing nearby houses to pieces. Min swung his dagger, but every slash only spurted black blood before the wounds sealed instantly. Vi yanked him aside, screaming, We can't kill it with ordinary weapons. Min stared at the talisman in his hand, his voice shaking. The blood of the willing, you mean? Madame Le cried out with her last breath. Someone must give their blood to the talisman, or it will escape into the world forever. Scene 3. The choice of life and death. The monster struck, one arm piercing straight through Madame Le's body, lifting her before ripping her apart. Blood sprayed everywhere. Min and Vi screamed in horror. Amid the chaos, Min turned to Vi, his voice breaking. Vi, let me do it. I'll use my blood. Vi sobbed, shaking her head violently. No, if you do it, you'll die. There has to be another way. Min gripped her hand tightly, his eyes resolute. Fong already sacrificed himself. If I run now, I'd be betraying him. I'll end this once and for all. He slashed his palm wide open. Blood dripped onto the talisman, which instantly ignited in his hand. Blazing with crimson light, the monster roared and hurled itself at him. Desperate to stop him, Vi clung to Min from behind, crying out, No, if you go, I go with you. Min turned, tears streaming down his face. Vi, live. As long as you live, my life has meaning. He pushed her away, charging straight at the creature. With a scream, Min pressed the burning talisman to its forehead. An earth-shattering explosion erupted. Red flames engulfed them both. The monster shrieked, its countless arms flailing as it was dragged into a circle of blazing light. Vi scrambled up, screaming in agony. Min, through the blinding flames, Min turned one last time, blood soaking his body, and smiled faintly at her. "Live for me?" Then both he and the creature were consumed by fire, vanishing as the light snapped out. Silence fell. The gloomy sky cleared. The fleshy village dissolved, leaving behind nothing but ruins and ash. Vi fell to her knees, weeping in despair. She was the only one left alive. The wind swept through the fields, carrying the faint scent of incense from the cursed village that had endured for centuries. With tears streaming down her face, Vi whispered, "Min, Fong, I will never forget you." She walked away from the village, her small figure fading into the mist. And with that, the story comes to an end. Thank you for listening all the way through. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe to the channel. It means so much and helps us create more haunting tales for you. If you have any questions or notice any mistakes, feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you for watching. In Darkness in the Night, we'll see you again in the next story.